Hi, I'm Jimmy Noble with the Noble Group, and today we're going to go over the appraisal. So this is going to apply if you're buying a house with cash, if you're getting a conventional loan, if you're getting a VA loan, or if you're getting an FHA loan. So basically, at the end of the day, pretty much everyone's going to get an appraisal. And there's going to be different addenda that we include in the contract of sale depending on the type of financing you're getting, whether it's the VA or FHA or conventional. So we'll have the specific addenda tailored for the loan type that you're getting. The bottom line is that if you're borrowing money from a bank, they want to make sure that they're not lending more money for you to purchase a house than they believe the house is worth. And their only, what should I say, their only way to find out the value of the house, because the bank doesn't actually come out, the bank hires an appraiser to do an appraisal on the property. And an appraiser's licensed, and they're going to follow a specific protocol. Now each loan type has slightly different appraisal guidelines that will need to be followed, different things that they're looking for, so to speak, to match the underwriting guidelines of the bank. And get a little ahead of myself here, but underwriting is basically kind of like the final step, the last person at the bank who signs off before they send the money over to you. And underwriting is nothing more than guidelines that need to be followed prior to the closing of a deal, really, from the bank standpoint. So let's just say that the appraisal came in for less than the contract sales price. That essentially becomes, in a way, a counter to the seller. And it's not that anyone chooses to renegotiate the price of the contract. It's the fact that the bank won't lend any more money than that appraised value. So then it goes over to the seller, and the seller at that time has an option. They can say, well, it's only a little bit of money. Sure, I know we negotiated this out, but the bank won't give any more to a buyer to give me for this house, so I'm going to go ahead and go through with it, and the deal's in full force. Now, that's if it comes in low and the seller agrees to reduce the price to the appraised value, transaction goes through. Seller does not have to do that, though. Seller does have the option, we'll play it out again. So the appraisal comes in for lower than the contract sales price, the price that you and them agreed to. And the seller says, I just can't do that. At that time, the seller will deliver us notice saying that they're not going to go through with the transaction. Because at the end of the day, you can't really make anyone sell for less than they agreed to based on an outside party such as an appraiser. From my experience, do I see that happening? No. That doesn't happen regularly. I'm trying to think of an example. Have I seen it happen before? Yes. Does it happen typically on our deals? No. Here's why we find that we don't really have appraisal issues. The reality is you're buying a house. You've looked at all the inventory on the market that meets your criteria. Based on its price and condition, the house that you went under contract is probably the best house you could find for that dollar amount. And you've actually, eyes on, looked at the properties. So what we find is we typically don't have the issues in regards to the appraised value, not matching up with the contract sales price. So it's not something to worry about. I just kind of wanted to give you the steps on this process. Now I will tell you, appraisers get paid by the bank, but they get paid with your money. So your lender, don't be surprised, your lender's probably going to ask you for a check. And they're typically going to be around $400 to $450 for the cost of the appraisal. And it could be a little bit more than that depending on the house. I really don't see it for any less than that on a day-to-day basis. But that being said, expect for your lender to ask you for a check to cover the cost of the appraisal. And that way they can pay that party for the bank to make sure that it protects the bank's money. The beautiful thing about this process, though, is the bank's interest and your interest are one and the same. You don't want to overpay for a house that you're purchasing, and the bank doesn't want to lend you more money than it's worth. So the fact that the bank's watching out for their interest really watches out for your interest when it really comes down to it. That being said, if you have any questions about the appraisal process or some of the differences in loan types, give us a call. We can be reached here. The number is 1-888-205-7773, or as always, you can visit us on thenoblegroup.org. Thanks so much, and have a great day.